Welcome to the many interpretations of Styracosaurus. I'm very excited for this one. Styracosaurus is not only a Ceratopsian, which is one of my all-time favorite groups of dinosaurs, but is also just a really cool dinosaur in general. Look at it. Look at that face. You gotta love that face. By the way, many of you originals from this channel or maybe TikTok might recognize that as my first profile picture. Regardless, this is going to be an awesome video because there's a lot of Styracosaurus depictions that are pretty aged. There's some earlier film depictions of this animal, so it goes way back. So we have like a nice contrast from that one compared to the newer ones. It's just gonna be really cool. You know, let's just get right into it. Let's just do that. We will start off in King Kong 1933. Look at this heartbreaker. Look how cool that looks. Look at that. That's awesome. A lot of these are going to look like this. This is pretty much the idea of what Styracosaurus looked like at the time, which was this huge, just Ceratopsian dinosaur with just a frill covered in spikes, as well as that nasal horn, a beak, and of course dragging its tail. You know, that was very common for dinosaurs to drag their tails back in that time. But the stop motion is absolutely amazing. It's, you know, I love looking back at the old designs of these animals and seeing how much they have changed to today. So looking back at this is just really cool. Pretty much all of the same things apply to Journey to the Beginning of Time. The Styracosaurus looks like this, which is, again, fairly standard for the time. Or one of my personal favorites, the Valley of Gwangi. I love the Valley of Gwangi. It's an absolutely awesome film to look back on. You know, Western mixed with dinosaurs. It's a pretty fun combination. I think it'd be really cool to see an updated, version of Valley of Gwangi, or just a different type of Western mixed with dinosaur stuff. That'd be interesting to see. But here it has more of a purple coloration, and of course, everything still looks pretty standard. You know, especially with these earlier depictions, they have a really huge arched body with spikes that seem to be a lot more attached to the frill, like they kind of fuse to the frill. It's very interesting, I think. We also get to see it fight an Allosaurus, which is a really cool pairing. That's not really something you see too frequently, so another awesome one to the list. And all that same stuff applies to the land that time forgot. This, again, is pretty much how Styracosaurus was often depicted. Though look at those chompers. Those teeth are really interesting. Styracosaurus and Ceratopsians in general had a toothless beak. They had teeth towards the back of their mouth, and those are actually known as dental batteries, and those are structures that allowed them to chew their food. They had tons and tons of teeth on those dental batteries, which is very interesting. They definitely didn't have teeth up in the beak like this, but this is one of the most unique ones because of that. I love the way that it looks, though. Again, it's very dated, but you just gotta love it. Or finally, on to Disney's dinosaurs. So we basically get like two iterations of Styracosaurus in this. There's the younger individuals that look like this and just look absolutely beautiful and absolutely amazing, and I just flippin' love the way that they look. Everything kind of pretty much matches up to the way that we see Styracosaurus today. Like we're getting to a point where Styracosaurus is going to remain fairly standard. It's a type of dinosaur that hasn't changed too much in our depictions, really, which is really cool. So I love the way that they look. Even their feet don't look bad, and feet are something that I've noticed gets portrayed in a wrong way very frequently in many pieces of dinosaur media when it comes to Ceratopsians anyway. It's typically you'll see them as like elephant feet, when in actuality they had feet that looked like this. Disney's dinosaur does seem a little bit closer to that, which makes sense because I think that Disney's dinosaur has really good designs in general. Of course, I can't forget Ema. Ema is the main character Styracosaurus that we see. She is an older individual, so she definitely has a lot more wear and tear on her. And honestly, the way that she's designed, she kind of looks very reminiscent of the older depictions that we saw. Like more of an arched back, very like stubbier proportions, and a smaller nasal horn. I actually saw someone mention that nasal horn was going to be explained to have been lost in a deleted scene when she was like fighting some theropods or something like that. I don't know how true that is. I haven't been able to find anything that backs that claim up, but that'd be pretty cool. I wouldn't be surprised if she actually did lose it because of something like that. But I love the way that she looks. I love that they did make her look older compared to the other Styracosaurs that we see in the film. And one thing that I want to point out is how they made her talk. She, of course, you know, she has a beak and everything, so talking would have been a tricky thing to pull off, as well as like conveying emotions and things like that. That's the whole reason why Alydar and the other iguanodons don't have their beak exposed. Instead, they put lips on top of their beak. But for someone like Ema, they actually looked at parrots and the way that they talk, because their beaks are very similar to the way that Ceratopsian beaks look. And they applied that to Ema. And I think that's really cool. I thought that was a great way to implement it, and that's, very practical. So I love that, and I always have to mention it whenever I can. And then in The Land Before Time, this kind of harkens back to older reconstructions as well. You get a little bit more of some stubbier proportions, a smaller nasal horn. It looks really good though. I love the way that the greens look. I love how different the colors of the frill look from the rest of the rest of its body. And yeah, I think it looks good. I don't really have too much else to say. I know that it was part of one of the darkest scenes in The Land Before Time. Unfortunately, but yeah, I like it. There's also Dino Squad, and I honestly don't know if this is Styracosaurus, because they gave it brow horns, like really long brow horns. I think Styracosaurus did have like reduced brow horns, or something close to that effect, maybe little hornlets or something like that. This has Triceratops brow horns, so I don't know if they were portraying Triceratops and just gave it large frill spikes. Just in case, I'm including it here on the Styracosaurus video too. Don't be surprised if I include it on the Triceratops video as well, just to be on the safe side. But most people on the interwebs are saying that it's Styracosaurus, so I'm going with that. It looks like this. If it is meant to be Styracosaurus didn't have those long brow horns. But the colors are cool, and this was, I think, a cool show. It's been forever since I watched it. That was one of those shows I didn't get to watch too frequently, but I know I did at some point. And then in Dinosaur King, looks gorgeous. It has a huge nasal horn, and these right here you can see are those like small little hornlets, I think, that I was talking about earlier. These spikes on the frill look really good. It also has some spikes going down the midline of its back. That's really different. But the feet look really good. The colors look awesome. And it actually has a short tail, a relatively short tail. Because that's something that's interesting about Ceratopsians. They do have relatively short tails. Like surprisingly short tails, honestly. You probably wouldn't expect their tails to be as short as they are. Yet they are. Short tails. And then in Dino Thunder, we get this awesome Styracosaur. It looks really cool. I love the gold colors that kind of mix in nicely with the red colors, and I really like the way that the nasal horn looks, because it kind of has that green like right in the middle, well, above the middle. Same with the frill spikes, which have some blues and some reds that kind of break up the solid color. I think it looks really cool. This was one that showed up that I never actually got to see in the show, because I didn't get to watch the whole show when I was younger. So nice surprise to find out that it was in it. And then in Dinosaur Train, I love the way that they look, especially in this shot. I think that they look really cool. Those colors are really interesting and really striking. They're really eye-catching. And it looks like we do have a younger individual right here with smaller spikes and a smaller nasal horn. Everything looks really good. I can't really complain. I like it. This is also an iffy one. We have the good dinosaur. We have this fellow right here. Can't remember his name. Anyway, he has long frill spikes, as I've mentioned. That is a staple of Styracosaurus. But once again, he has the brow horns, very reminiscent of something like Torosaurus or Triceratops or something like that. He also has a reduced nasal horn, also similar to Triceratops. So I don't know how to classify him, but for now we're talking about him as a Styracosaurus. I really like the frill spikes and the way that they incorporate that to his character. He likes to keep all of these creatures with him that protect him from all sorts of different things.
This is Dream Crusher. He protects me from having unrealistic goals.
And I like that he's camouflaged to blend in with a birch forest. It's nice little things like that help make this world feel a little bit real and lived in, I suppose. So I think that those little additions are cool, but of course he does have elephant feet. I don't know. I just haven't mentioned the Ceratopsian feet in a while. These are a good example of elephant feet on a Ceratopsian. So once again, don't be surprised to see this guy in the Triceratops video as well.
And this is Debbie.
Dinosauria. It's been a while since we've talked about Dead Sound's Dinosauria. I won't talk too much about the story details or anything like that, because I do highly encourage everybody else to go and watch it. But basically, it's really cool. I love these designs. I love the Styracosaurus episode in particular, known as Old Buck, and the story elements that go into it. I also love that he actually takes inspiration from real-life fossil discoveries and applies them to his actual narrative, so to speak. And that's one of those instances where I encourage you to watch the behind-the-scenes information, because you'll actually learn a lot about Styracosaurus and other such dinosaurs in the process. So I do recommend that. These colors look really awesome. I love the fact that the Old Buck in particular is covered in scarring and things like that, and he has a lot of things caught in his spikes. It looks so cool. Beasts of Mesozoic, which did my Pachyrhinosaurus right here, they actually did one of Old Buck, essentially, and I want it. I will get it one of these days. Eventually, you guys will see it on the shelf, probably alongside the Pachyrhinosaurus here, because Styracosaurus is just one of those dinosaurs that I just love. I haven't emphasized that enough yet, but I really do love Ceratopsians. Ceratopsians are really interesting and cool dinosaurs. They all have like different, head ornamentation, different horns and things like that. And Styracosaurus is a prime example. It was one of the quintessential examples of how weird and different this group of dinosaurs could really be. So the moral of the story is, one day I'll get the Old Buck and you'll see it. It's in stock right now, so I might think about doing that unless a lot of you beat me to it, which is a possibility. Someone mentioned this to me in the comments, and I haven't been able to find your comment, but if I did find your comment, then I'm going to put it right here. Thank you for mentioning this to me. Apparently, Styracosaurus was planned for Dinosaur Revolution, but it did not end up showing up. Now, I think that I found the correct images for this. If not, then I'm sorry, but here's what I found. This looks cool. The colors look amazing, and the whole model looks amazing. I would have loved to see it in Dinosaur Revolution. While doing this, I also learned that Spinosaurus was apparently supposed to be in Dinosaur Revolution. We were so close, so close. Now let's get into the Jurassic franchise. First, in Warpath Jurassic Park, we have this one right here, who has very, very unique proportions. It has some different variants. The colors just look really cool across the board. Not really much else I could say. I just think that the colors are really cool. In Jurassic Park 3, Park Builder, looks really good. The whole skeletal structure seems to match up pretty well, and the colors are, it's a pretty solid color across the board, but it looks pretty good. In Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, I love the way that they look here. I like the dull body in contrast with the relatively lighter frill, like brighter frill. It has some red colors on the frill. The spikes look good. The horn looks good. Everything looks pretty good on it, and I think that this design in particular really does match the Jurassic franchise pretty good, especially for the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it looking like this in a movie or a show or something. Now we have it in Jurassic World Evolution 2. Now, I think that this one looks phenomenal. This is easily one of my favorite Ceratopsians, nay, one of my favorite dinosaur designs in this game. They do a really good job at capturing Styracosaurus and really distinguishing it as that genus of dinosaur. The spikes on the frill look fantastic. I love the orientation of them. I love the nasal horn. The beak looks really cool. The feet are actually a lot closer, I mean, like, they're not, I don't think they're quite there. Like, it's hard for me to see from this angle, but I think that they're a lot closer. I just think this looks really cool. Of course, you get to give it different colors. I just chose random colors for the... Look at that one in the distance. Look how it's kind of like silhouette. Oh. That was cool. I love the social animations in this game. But no, these look really good. These, I think, are another example of paleo art just kind of like brought to life in this game. Easily one of my favorite designs in the whole game. Colors that you get to choose look fantastic. Just everything across the board. Wow, you are striking colors. What's also really cool is it looks like it has some random large scales throughout the body. That's something that it's likely most Ceratopsians had. We know that Triceratops had it. And so I'd say it's likely that other Ceratopsians would have possessed the same thing. Where, you'll notice here, it has regular sized scales, which are those small ones everywhere, and then every once in a while there'd be like a large pebble-like scale. That's so cool. That is so cool. I didn't even notice it on the other ones. It's not as easy to see, but it is there. Yeah, I love these guys. They look really good. In Jurassic World Alive, it looks like this. I like this, actually. I think this is really cool. What's interesting, I don't know if this is the intention, but it looks like it's a little bit of a combination of our newer reconstructions of the animal and the older reconstructions, like with that huge back and everything like that. Again, I don't know if that's the intention, but it would be cool if it was. The tail looks good, the feet look pretty dang good, and the head looks great. Of course, the head is the most notable part. The spikes look great, the nasal horn looks great. I like how it kind of curves forward like that and how it's kind of like tipped in black. And the beak looks really cool. These colors also look fantastic. I like these type of almost bioluminescent colors that it has on its head and frill, as well as on the back. That's awesome. I haven't been able to find any of these guys while playing Jurassic World Alive, and maybe one day that'd be cool. I also like it in Primalops. One thing I will mention though, and this is probably a good place to mention it, are those spikes. Styracosaurus seems to be a dinosaur that was subject to individual variation, as in the number of spikes and the orientation of the spikes would differ from individual to individual. That was something that was really exemplified from the specimen of Hannah, which was actually a huge inspiration for Dead Sound's Old Buck. Seriously, go watch it. But Hannah was actually asymmetrical. Like, the spikes on one side of her frill differed in number compared to the spikes on the other side of the frill. So Styracosaurus seems to be a great example of individual variation that can exist in these type of animals. So if we see like different counts of spikes on the frill, that could pretty much be something that checks out for the animal. So I don't know if we've really noticed that too much yet, but like it looks like they've all mostly gone for 4, especially in the Jurassic franchise. From what I can tell anyway, it's mostly 4 on either side, except, well, it looks like Warpath might have done 3. I don't know. Still, that is something that we could very much see, is just individual variation in the spikes of Styracosaurus. And then in Jurassic World the game, this one looks interesting. Its head kind of looks weird. It looks like it has like a really, like, I don't know what, like, the way it kind of forms into the frill is very weird. I don't know what it is. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I think it stands out quite well. And the feet look really good. The tail looks really good. It all pretty much looks good. I don't have too much else to say. It looks pretty good. And then we exit the Jurassic franchise and we'll move on to video games, starting off with Fossil Fighters. These colors are really striking. I like the yellows with the blues and the reds. Looks like it has about 4 main spikes, maybe 5 on either side. And it's just stubbier proportions and, all the same stuff that I say about Fossil Fighters. I like the way that they look. And then in Zoo Tycoon 2, this Styracosaurus here looks really cool, and this is something that was pointed out to me, is that there is sexual dimorphism present in them, which is something that I always think is really cool, especially with these kind of, again, bioluminescent blues that we see on this one. They look awesome. I like them. Extremely stylized, but very fitting for the game in which they are in. And then we have in Turok, we have this fella right here with a massive nasal horn, huge spikes, and a huge frill too. It's almost on par with Pentaceratops, which is another ceratopsian that just has a massive frill. There's also, it looks like there's some that like are carrying weapons and things like that. That is the most different one that we have on here. I don't know too much about Turok, but that certainly does make sense, Path of Titans. Of course, in true Path of Titans fashion, you do get some variants with this fella, such as with the Albertensis, which is a pretty standard design, or Decornus, which alters the proportions and just the way that the frill and the head looks very slightly. And then Spinacotis, which adds some quills. Of course, some speculative quills, but, still look really awesome. So let's jump right in as Albertensis. Basically, I love it. I rarely dislike any designs from Path of Titans, and this is just a great example of one that I really like. I think that they pretty much nailed everything. It looks fantastic. I love the way that the spikes look on the frill. I even love like the small little bumps that it has on its frill. I love the shape of the skull. I love the nasal horn. I love the beak. Everything looks really good. Everything looks fantastic. The sounds sound pretty cool too. There's really not too much that I can say overall. The animations are pretty solid. I think it looks great. I just think it looks great, And now we have Prehistoric Kingdom. Hey, look at this. I can actually look at it in-game instead of saying, hey, this is going to be added in the future. Here is the Styracosaurus. You got Albertensis, of course, and you get 3 variants of it. I love them all. I think everything looks really solid on it. I really like this one because of the colors in the horn. The horn right here I think looks really cool. It starts off with that darker coloration on the bottom towards the base. In the middle you get this kind of reddish color, and then a little bit more white up here. I think it looks so cool. Only thing I might be a little bit iffy on are these type of quills up here. But that's just like a small thing. I mean, I don't think the Styracosaurus is a Ceratopsian that's confirmed to have them. In fact, I don't know if really any large sauropod, or sorry, Ceratopsian is confirmed to have them. If anything, they would have grown in between the scales, which I think might be portrayed here. But regardless, this just looks beautiful. Let's make one. I think that I love them in this game. Is this like, that's like a variant color, isn't it? I don't think I remember seeing the white on its face. Let me check. Oh.
The purpose of these gorgeous frills has long vexed paleontologists. Were they primarily for display, temperature regulation, or neck protection? Now that we have one in the flesh, hopefully we can solve this mystery once and for all.
That's actually a good point. The frills are interesting on Ceratopsians. Practically all of them have them. Not all of them, but like there are some smaller ones that I think lacked them. But, you know, ones like Styracosaurus did have them. But what's interesting about them, and almost every other type of Ceratopsian, is that they have holes in their fenestrae, or sorry, in their frill, known as fenestrae. And that makes them a lot lighter. Of course, that's something that they do need. That their skull certainly does need to be lighter. And it might imply that it was likely used mostly for display because it wouldn't have been as strong. But that doesn't apply for every single Ceratopsian, and I could probably talk about this a little bit more in the many interpretations of Triceratops. Triceratops did not have it. It did not have the holes in their frill. They did not have fenestrae. They're one of the only Ceratopsians that lack them. So it seems likely that Triceratops here would have used it more so for defense instead of display. I believe Ceratops has the holes in them too. So that is interesting. What I think is really cool is like a lot of the depictions we've seen kind of like adds color where the fenestrae would have been. The Jurassic World Evolution one did that too, and I think that's really, like, that's interesting. You know, I could totally see it being in the realm of possibility. I've spent a little bit more time on these guys than other ones because I just love them. I think they look really, really cool. I just love the dinosaurs in this game, and I can't wait to talk about it a little bit more in the future. It looks so cool. I love those. Oh, look, there's like, oh my, I mashed up. Oh my, okay. It's like little, oh jeez. Oh jeez, okay. There's like little hints of blue on the skull and the frill. Nigel Marvin is so cool, by the way. Okay, I'm spending too much time. I'm spending too much time on Prehistoric Kingdom. For one last thing, I'll also show that they do have some sexual dimorphism. Look at this. Male variant, female variant. Colors differ, the size differs. I just love that. That's so cool. And in the future of this game, they're adding ontogeny, which means we get to see little babies growing into the adults. And you get to choose what age you can place them down on. I love this game. Okay, I'm sorry for spending so much time on this. I just, I never really got the chance to talk about it like this. So, love the Styracosaurus in this game. Paleopines also looks fantastic. It looks like the nasal horn is a little bit more reduced, but it comes in a lot of different colors, and I think that all of the colors look really good. I say it every time. This game is extremely stylized, but one thing that I really do... Oh, my mic, cat. But one thing I really do like about it is that it's stylized, but it does keep the whole idea and keeps some point of accuracy in mind when portraying these animals. So I think that they look really good, and this Styracosaurus is a great example of that. I think it looks fantastic. And there we have it. Those are some of the depictions of Styracosaurus. I thought this one was actually like really fun. I thought that this one was like saw a nice evolution from the very early beginnings, like say with something with the King Kong, 1933 King Kong, all the way up until something like Prehistoric Kingdom or something like that with our updated depiction. It's one of those dinosaurs that we can see a nice little growth of how much it has changed with new fossil discoveries, and it's a very good example of something like that. I didn't really have a single one that I disliked, and I've had a few people request that I mention which one was my favorite by the end of the video. That's a little bit difficult because I have a very hard time choosing favorites. A lot of times when I say something's my favorite, I'll see something new and I'm like, oh, that's my favorite, and then I'll flip-flop, right? So I'll name a few that were my favorites. My favorites include Path of Titans and probably Prehistoric Kingdom. I mean, the spikes are a bit interesting on the Prehistoric Kingdom, or the quills rather, but I still think that they look really great. Oh, no, see, this is what I'm doing. Old Buck. I love the way that Old Buck looks, and that herd in particular. Like, I didn't really mention this in its section, but there is a lot of variation in the members of the herd in that too. And I love that. You know, I love stuff like that. I love that he takes the time to do things like that. So it is very difficult for me to choose favorites. I know a lot of people want me to do it on the Triceratops video, and I'll try. But this is a smaller video, and I'm struggling here. So yeah, any one of those three can be considered my favorite. I really like that. Knocking over my water, daggum cat. Yeah, you. What do you think, Laura? What do you think? Barely see you, but yeah. So you know, again, this is a smaller video than the Triceratops one, and I'm already struggling to figure out which one's my favorite. So I also like the Evolution one too. Jurassic World Evolution, I think, looks absolutely awesome and is one of my favorite designs in the whole of Jurassic, like the Jurassic franchise. So I don't know which one's my favorite. I don't think Ahsoka has a favorite either. By the way, that's my cat's name. A lot of people ask. This is Ahsoka, of course, named after Ahsoka Tano, because my wife and I are huge Star Wars fans. Yeah, she licked my hand. Yeah, you know, and I'll try to do it for the Triceratops video. I think I'm kind of rambling by this point. Thank you for everybody who stuck around. I'll try it. I will try it, and I will try it for the foreseeable few videos that I do in this series, but no promises that it'll be too accurate, I guess. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate everybody who watches this. I am currently working on a special Many Interpretations of for the 1-year anniversary, which is on August 8th. I hope to get that out by then. And I am also working on the 20,000 subscriber special, which is Triceratops, and because we are approaching that, which is absolutely amazing. I appreciate every single one of you for following. So yeah, look out for those. There's also Hatzegopteryx coming up. So I'm working on 4 Many Interpretations of videos at the same time, which is stressful. It's absolutely crazy because these are by far my biggest videos, and they're not complicated videos, of course. It's just they're time consuming. And I do work a full-time job, and recently we've only been working 10 to 12-hour shifts. So it's been really difficult trying to balance that. So these videos do get these videos do get to be a little bit more difficult to complete. So maybe some of these next Many Interpretations of might be a day or 2 late, depending on when I want to get them out. So I guess be prepared for something like that. I hope it's not the case. You know, I have been staying up late to try to get these videos done and everything, but only time will tell. We'll find out in the near future. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and have an awesome day.